Today on the workbench, got a new project here. This is a Kato AC4400CW, and I'm going to install a Loksound ESU Loksound 58921. This is a Loksound 5 DCC Direct. It has the power packs integrated into the board. The other thing I'm going to put in this is two, well, I should have taken them out of the package, two scale sound system speakers, one in the front, one in the back. So what I've got here, this is a 9 by 15 by 20, and this is a 9 by 11 by 15, and these are from the UFit line. Now what we're going to do to this, when we install these, I'll have to mill the frame out, so let me get those out of the way. Let's set them down in there. But these Katos, they come with a speaker. Well, this one doesn't, because it doesn't have a decoder in it, but they come with a cutout here, and for a 28mm round speaker you can put in a fuel tank, but you can only get one in it. So this gentleman, he wanted two speakers in this, and I came up with these two. So we're gonna have to take this thing apart, and let me see if I can. So this fuel tank, it snaps in here. I know you can't see that, but there is a little snap right in there. And I'm trying to be careful there because I don't want to snap it, but it just falls off when you get it just right. But there's the factory speaker enclosure for the 28mm speaker, so I'll just leave that there, no big deal, and we'll set that off to the side. Now the other thing that we'll end up doing, I'm going to pull this off with the walkways intact here. You can really just take, well, this one doesn't have the handrail, so I mean, of course when I want to take it apart, basically you can just squeeze in on the sides and you can get that to come right apart. So no biggie, but we are going to have to pull these couplers off. So let me get those out of the way. You can see that walkway is basically ready to fall off. I got to be careful there because it does have the railings on the front and the rear of that walkway. So let me set that right there, and then that'll just pull right up. And of course you can see the light tube there for the ditch lights on the front. Now I'll cut this off, and I'll put a small, let's see, that's a 402 LED. I'll put that in there for the front ditch lights. But what I'm going to do here is, when I lay this out, when I take it apart, I lay everything in the same orientation as it came off. So we got the front of the locomotive, the front of the walkway, and the same with the fuel tank, but you can't see it because I've got it back here in the back. So let me put that back there, that there. I've got my LEDs out, the speakers. I don't need this anymore, this cradle. Pull those off, set the couplers aside. Of course, the other thing we're going to do, we'll pull these off, and I got them oriented the way they came off, and on each side that they came off of. That way we won't get that mixed up. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, well, the first thing after we got our body off, these connections are just basically slip-in connections for this board. And like I say, this thing is DCC ready. You could take an 8-pin decoder, put it right in there, ready to go. But we're not going to do that. So those basically just pull out. I mean, if you wanted to, you could cut them off, but we are going to reuse our pickup wires. We've got 2 screws here we have to remove out of our factory board, and I'm going to set them off to the side because I won't need those anymore. I am going to have to modify the mount a little bit, and this will just pop right up off of there, and we'll have new LEDs in this also. And I ship those back in case the customer wants them. So now we are ready to, well, I like to take and mark these. There's the front and there's the rear on that locomotive. So what we're going to do now, there's 2 screws in the bottom of this that hold that motor in, and you'll understand why here in a minute, why I'm taking everything apart. Like I say, I do have to mill this frame. So we'll set those screws aside, go ahead and pull that motor out. And if I wanted to, just to make it so I won't have to remember, there's the front. Set that over out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and pull these trucks off, front and rear, and these just clip in. You can, I don't know if you probably can't see this clip down in here. Sometimes these things will just spring right off and almost go into the nether just like that. And we'll set that the way it goes, and I'm not going to pick up on that yet because it'll fall out. I'll take this one off. We've got that one, the way it goes. And we'll pop these worm gears up out. That way those trucks will fall right out. So there's the rear one. You turn this back around. My front over here, the way we started. And there's the front one. And then there's that. And there's that. So we've got that apart, which is no biggie. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to put these speakers where I want them. That one will sit there, and that'll sit right there like that. So what I want to do is I need to mark this. Actually, I'm going to have to pull that off. That's old speaker housing, so it'll sit a little better for me. But I'm going to mark this speaker out. And then I'll do the same with this one. So there you can see where I've marked the speakers. That's what we'll cut out. And then these will sit right in there just like that. So now I'm going to mark across this thing so I can just see this a little better. There's that. And I'm going to cut this one back here all the way back to that. So that'll be nice and easy. Be able to see where I want to be at right there. Alright, now I can go cut this out. So I'll be back here in a second, but we've got it completely disassembled, and before I put this all back together, this thing is dry, I'll lube it up, and we'll be good to go. So I'll be back. Okay, so I've got the decoder that we're going to use out of the package, and basically this is a it's like a drop-in board, but it's an X18 connector is what it is. And this little board right here just pops right off. So, and then you can just take and once you get it lined up, pop it right back on. No big deal. They're nice little decoders, and they work well. They'll work well for this. But so you can see I've got the frame milled out from what it was, and basically to do this I cut it with my bandsaw is how I did this. When I was going to put it on the mill, and I thought, nah, I don't want to have to set this thing up and, get it, clamp it and hold it and whatever. So I just put it on my bandsaw, and I can cut it out with that. You know, no big deal, nice and easy. So anyway, we're ready to start putting this thing back together. So now, the first thing I want to do, since we have this apart, I'm going to take and put some lube in that. Don't need very much, and I use this super lube because it is plastic friendly. Don't need a lot of it. Actually, I think that's too much. So then I'll just take and run that around. And that'll be plenty of lube in that front truck. Don't have to do anything else to it. Now we'll lube and I'm not using very much. And that stuff will work around in there. But this thing was completely dry. So there's that one. Go ahead and put that in there. Set the drive shafts back in. So then we can take and put our motor in. Now before I put the motor in, I am going to take and modify it a little bit. I'm going to cut these factory board, I'm going to cut the mounts off because, and I'll show you why. So this has holes, mounting holes. I'm not sure what it would mount on, but it does not work in this situation. So I can cut these off, which is no big deal. This is just a pair of flush cut pliers. There's that. I am going to take and kind of smooth that out, because this is just rubber here. So we're good to go on our motor, and I will have to solder some wire to that, but let's go ahead and put this thing together. Of course, we've got our front marked on the motor. slides right back down in. Get out our anyway, now I got it flipped over with that front truck out of it. That was one of those dummy anyway. I know somebody's probably sitting there yelling at their screen, why did you do that? Well, I don't know why I did that. Pop that in, get a rear clip before we make any more moves here. Last screw in. Put my super lube away. Done with that. For some reason there it went. Okay, front and rear. So now, and it doesn't matter which way you mount this, but so if you look at the wiring diagram, the motor mounts are right there at the end of my tweezers. So here's the motor mounts, or the wiring for the motor mounts. Anyway, I like to keep them, I'm going to keep them up here on this side toward the motor. But what we're going to do first is I'm going to add a piece of wire to this. But I'm going to cut part of that off first, because we really don't need all of it. And then the same over here with this side. Okay. Now we start our process of rinse, lather, and repeat here. And basically I do just use one color of wire. So I know somebody's probably screaming right now, why use the NMRA wiring code? Well, that's all well and good, but and there is a purpose to it, but I don't use it at this stage. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this wire underneath. Pull that through, and then I'll strip it off. If you hear that humming in the background, that's my air conditioner, because it's like 92 degrees and about 75% humidity, maybe 80. So it is hot, hot, hot outside. I do not like it hot. I would rather it be 20 degrees and snow than this hot weather. So now we'll pull this back through. And it'll sit right in there. And there's our two motor connections. Pull right up so we don't have to worry about them getting in the way. Now I'll cut them off just a little long. Now we're ready for our I forgot, I need to cut off where these screws once lived on that. There's the other part of that. That'll sit right there like that. Now, we'll break out the Q-tips. We'll start cleaning. Clean that area where that speaker goes. That. Clean the back of the decoder where the double-sided tape goes. And then the motor. Oop. While I got it out, we'll clean the speakers off. And these things are small, but JT has a good sound in those. He engineers all of his speakers, and they do sound good. So now we'll get our double-sided tape here, and I'll just go from that to that. So that's that piece. These speakers will sit in here like this. So what I'll do with those, I've got a little narrower double-sided tape. That I can put in there. There's that one. That one. Trim that off a little more. Okay. So now we can peel back our tape on our speaker. So there's one. There's that one. Everything clears. Here's our second one. Get it centered in there. So there's our speakers installed. Now we'll take and install the decoder. Make sure I get my motor mounts up here the right way, and I am going to flip this over to where I can see it a little better. Okay, so there's our decoder and both speakers installed. Now, what I'm going to do before I hook the track pickups, because if I'd put the track pickups in right now, it'll be in the way of my speakers when I wire them, and I could have wired those up first, you know, no biggie, but I want to wire that up. I can wire the motor up. And I probably should have put that on the outside. I don't know why I put it on the inside like that. So I'll change that around. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll put this motor mount, or not motor mount, but motor wire on. So, I'll go ahead and put a little flux on both of those. And I'm going to cut that off a little bit too. don't know what it is sometimes. Of course, I'm doing this at an angle to where sometimes it's hard to see. So sometimes it makes it difficult. And I need to program that decoder too. I haven't done that yet. So at some point that'll be a good stopping point. Or at least a good time for a break. Get that cleaned off. And now we're ready for a little speaker wiring. And I am going to run these in, let's see, I believe series is how I like to put those on. For some reason, I always have a hard time remembering it. Yeah, series. I don't know why, but that one sometimes just I go blank on. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to tin these speakers. Get that wire out of my way. Okay. So now I'll get my black wire out again, and I will use a little piece of red on this just because So let me strip this off. And so my speakers, I believe, are these two. We'll have to get out the manual. So here's the wiring diagram, and it's oriented the way I've got it laying on the table. So these two here are the speakers. So let's go ahead and get this wire out. There's that. I'll run this over to this first pad, but before I do that, I'm going to take this piece of red wire, strip it down, and then we'll get it all fluxed up. Now this way you will be able to see this a little easier. Let me get that out of the way I'm going to wire this in parallel. So, or series, I mean. And that's what that red dot is. That's the positive side of that speaker. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this down through this hole. This will perform two functions. That'll get that out of the way nice and neat. And then I'm going to pull it I'm going to run it, I'm going to kind of weave it here behind these motor wires. That way when I get this thing in here tight-ish, I'll be able to hold that back. So now this red wire will hook to the negative side of this speaker. Okay. There's that. Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to run another piece of black wire from the positive side up to the other side of this motor mount. I'd confused myself there for a minute. Thought I had one too many wires. So I'll be able to pull this down. Cut that off. Yeah. I'm not going to run it through that hole, but I'm at the same time, well, I can hook that up, no big deal. Okay. And we'll strip this one off. So after we get this done, then I'll be able to, well, I'll hook the track pickups on there. There's that one. And there's that. So, speakers are all hooked up. Now, we can go ahead with our track pickups, and the track pickups are here, 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 and here. This is the front light. Or rear. It's the rear light. So, anyway, we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and flux everything that I need for the moment. Okay. Go ahead and cut that. Let me go ahead and cut this one also. That way we'll have our rear track pickups hooked up. So there's the rear track pickups. Get that in there. Clean that tip off. So it would run right there like it sits. There's one. And there's the other. So, let's clean some of that off there. And that's probably pretty shiny, but you can see track pickups. Of course, this red wire is running all the way back to this other speaker, and it's hooked to the negative side, negative to positive. And then we've got this speaker wire run up here, that's negative to that side, and then we've got this back speaker, positive to the other side, and then our rear pickups. So this thing is ready to test, and the only thing we have left to do is our lights, and we've got to add a couple of resistors. So I'll be back here in a second. I'm going to test this thing out, make sure that it's going the right direction. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, now we're to the point where we're ready to start installing our lights. Well, if I can get them. Now I'm going to put 3 lights in this, and really what it's going to be, let me pull this light pipe out of the rear here. I need to cut this off, because if I put the shell on the way it sits right now, it will hit the speaker. So I can cut that off. And I really don't have to do anything to that. We'll zoom out some there. But I will take a fine file, fingernail file. These things are great. And that'll polish that up just a little bit. And that'll feed the rear light. So what I'm going to do with this is I'd like to take this. This is a Loctite product for their super glue, and just clean that off a little bit. Plastic bonder is what it's called. But I'll take one of these pieces of wire that I have made up, and that'll sit in there. Let's see. Let me make sure. Okay. It sits in there like that. This is the top. So I'm going to take this wire, I'm going to take that wire. Actually, what I want to do, I'm going to glue it right to the front of that. So that'll just sit there, just like that. So we'll take just a drop of glue, not much, and we'll let that sit there for a second or two. It's kind of like watching paint dry. let me get out my, this is a quick set stuff for glue. So there's that one. Let me close this stuff up here for a minute. I do want to test that. And I really don't have to do anything other than that to that light. Okay, so that'll feed the back, and I am just going to put another drop over that. That'll help to protect those wires. Set that over there. Now, for up front here, basically going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it down in here. I don't need to cut that one off. So we'll take another one of these. Let me get everything ready here. And I may have to do this. Yeah. I'm going to do it off camera because it's going to be hard for me to do. So I'll be back here in a minute. Okay, so I've got that one glued up in there. Now we're going to come down to this one for the light, or the ditch lights. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut off this light pipe. Let me see something a minute. I'm just going to cut it back here. That way, and that does come off, so that's no big deal. Well, while I've got that off of there, or while it fell off, I'm going to take and drill a hole, a small hole. That way I can set the light right in that. So I've got my hole drilled in that. There's that. I'll put those back on here in a little bit. And I drilled that. I can run that wire down through. I wouldn't have had to run it down through like that. But I want to make sure that I'm facing the right way. So I'm going to do this off camera just so I can see this. Okay. So I did most of the lights here off camera. So you can see, of course, I drilled that. I got the light for the ditch lights. You can see the light in there at the end of the light tube for the headlight. You can see back here I've got a light for the light tube in there, and got everything twisted together. Got a little bit of wire management going on there. These two I'm going to hook together so the ditch lights and the headlight come on at one time, so that won't be any big deal. So I'm ready to solder these to the board, and I got done just in time. It took about a half an hour to install the program on the decoder. So now I can go get that and we'll put this back together. Okay, so our program is loaded up. We're good to go with our lights in the locomotive, but now I need to install, actually I'm going to pull the decoder off here because I need to install a couple of resistors, and I'll see if I can't zoom in on this through my magnifier. So right there, those two little dots are where I'm going to put these resistors, right there and then back up here. And I'll have to do this off camera. These are, no, I forget what size these are. 603s. They're a 603. So I don't know if you can see that. Where did it go? Okay, so it's right there on the end of my tweezers. So I need to install that, but I'm going to have to do this through my magnifier. There's no way I can show you this. So I'll be back here in a minute. Okay, so I got that hooked up. Or I got the resistors on, I mean, let's say that. So I'm going to put the decoder back on. And it does snap in there. With no problem. Okay, so now we can run this wiring. And so I've got this is the rear side. And of course you can see my big F for the front. So my rear light's going to go up here. Of course the other thing I want to do is I need to use the two 1.5 volt outputs, and that is, or they are, these two these two pads right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some flux on there, and I'll tin those. That'll be that. So like I said, this is the rear. And it'll go on this pad. Actually, let me cut that off just a touch. And then this red wire. And you can use either pad for this. So there's that. Clean this tip off. And then we'll trim that down a little bit. And we'll trim this one while we're here. And this would be easier to see with my magnifier. But that'll go on that pad. And those resistors that I put in were 750 ohm. So and then we've just got our front light to connect up. Okay, so there's that. Now, I want to get a piece of Kapton tape out. I don't need to. I want to put this together and test it. Make sure all my wires are where they need to be. And I'm not going to shove that down on. I'm just going to make sure that it all fits. We'll test it, and then I can put it together. So I'll be back here in a minute. Alright, we've got this Kato unit up on the turntable here, and as you can see, I've got the headlight on already. Let me go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to turn that back on so you can see that. Really, that's all the lighting functions we have in it are the headlights, those two ditch lights, the front ditch lights, and the rear headlight. So I'll let this thing go through its startup sequence. If you hear a hum, that's my air conditioner, so I really hope it doesn't take away from this. So there we've run through our startup sequence. And you can faintly hear the bell there. Turn it back on. But let's see. Of course, we have our coupler. And so I'm going to turn the drive hold on this, and I'll start ramping up through the speed steps. So there we went up through most of them. I'll take that back down to 0. And of course, what else would a GE be without the compressor? May have to turn that one up just a little bit. But it is faint. Here's our air dryer. And I really haven't went through the programming on this other than just to program the sound on it. So I need to go back through probably and change some of the volumes. But yeah, I mean the two scale sound system speakers in the top of the locomotive now, I think they do produce a better sound than just the one speaker in the bottom. So I think this gentleman will be really happy with this locomotive. Of course, you can see that none of the details are on it, and I really don't do the details, so I just put in the sound. So anyway, that finishes up this project. Thanks for watching.